Okay, this is a short video on how to connect track feeders to KATO Track. Now I know there's multiple ways out there on the web and on YouTube on how to do this. I've tried a bunch of them. Specifically, I've tried connecting the wire directly to the rail of the KATO Track. And when I did that, I always found that I melted the plastic. I tried to put the wire alongside the rail, above the ballast, and I always ended up melting it and having problems doing that. So I discarded that idea. There's also some ways to connect it, obviously, to the unijoiner. However, I rely on the unijoiners when I have to, but when I want a good, solid, secure connection, nothing beats a wire soldered to another connection. It's much more reliable than a connector. Being a reliability engineer for many years, connectors fail. And I know you have to use them on the KATO Unitrack. You can't put a feeder on every single track, although I've done that. But the method I have, I think, is very reliable. It's repeatable, and it works very well. And I've done these, literally hundreds of these, and I've probably got it down to where I can do one track every 2 minutes, sometimes less than a minute to do it. So I'm going to show you how to do that now. Okay, here we are at the bench, and I have a piece of KATO Unitrack. And the first thing you'll notice is I put a red mark and a black mark on the track. If I don't do that, I get confused, and I forget which rail wants to be red and which one wants to be black. So I put the red mark on one side, the black on the other side, the underside of the track, and I put it toward the end where I'm going to connect the wires. Okay? Now, as far as the wires go, I use exclusively 22 gauge solid wire that's been tinned. It makes things a lot easier. So let me cut off a piece of tinned 22 gauge wire, and we'll get started. Okay, I've stripped a couple of pieces of wire, a red and a green. They're about 10 inches to a foot long. I don't expect I'll need that much to go to the bus from the feeder, but I don't measure it anymore. I used to. This is probably 1/4 of an inch long, the stripped part right here. You can see here. Again, it's not that critical. Next thing I do is I make a right angle hook in each one of them. And with practice, you'll know how much that hook has to be. But I would say it's probably a 1/16 of an inch or a little bit less. But it's just a hook, and you use a pair of needle nose pliers to make a right angle hook. That looks pretty close. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do after I made the hook is I'm going to tin the hook. I'm using a soldering iron. It's about 700 degrees roughly. It's a very small tip soldering iron, and I'm going to put a little bit of solder on each one of the hooks. The bottom of the L shape. It doesn't need to be on the whole wire. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the Unitrack, and I'm using some of this paste flux. It's called paste flux, made by, I don't know who it's made by, Qualitech International, and it looks like this. It's flux, soldering paste. I tried using liquid flux. It doesn't work as well. It's not strong enough. So I take a little bit on a toothpick like this, and you see on the track there's 2 large holes next to the connectors, or where the Unitrack connector is. You see those 2 large holes? I stuff some in each one of those holes, like that. It's actually is pretty quick. You know, it's not that critical. So now you have in those 2 large holes at the end of the track a bunch of flux, and I think you should be able to see that right there. Okay, now I'm going to solder the wires to those enlarged holes. There's holes on both sides. You can see, maybe you can see that side better. The enlarged holes, rectangular holes. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to use a microscope. I think you should be able to use, if you don't have a microscope, one of these magnifying glasses, standalone magnifying glasses. I'm going to try to get a shot of it while I'm doing it, so you can see what's going on through the microscope. I don't know how successful I'll be, but give it a try. Okay, I think I've got it here. I'm going to attempt to solder the black wire, the black feeder wire, to that connection on the black side here. So you can see the wire. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just dab some of the flux on the end of the wire, and then I'm going to solder it. Now I hold the solder on there, or the iron on there, no more than 3 seconds, 3 to 4 seconds, so I don't melt anything. Okay, and you can see that's pretty tight on there. Now I'm going to do the red wire. Same thing. And I want to mention that the iron comes in from this side, the right side. The connectors are up here. Why do I do it from the right side? Because I don't want to melt. I want to melt as little of the plastic as possible. So I'm going to smear some of the paste around, put it in the hole, put the soldering iron in there, and hold it for like 2 or 3 seconds. And that's on there pretty tight. And then the last thing you do, or I do, is I take some alcohol, because alcohol is the solvent for this flux, and I just splash the alcohol around, get off as much of the flux I can. Flux can be corrosive if it's left there long term. You can see I'm just cleaning it off. The alcohol will evaporate. I use 91% isopropyl. And that's it. Now, I know it took me a little while to explain this, but once you get the hang of this, it's literally, it's literally a 1 to 2 minute job. So there you have it. Hope you got something out of it. You can see these wires are on there pretty tight now. Let me back off away from the microscope and turn on the focus here. And you can see they're on there pretty tight. Okay, and now what I do next is put it in. When I put it in the layout, I have 2 inches of foam and a 1/2 inch of plywood. So what I do is I drill a hole through the foam and the plywood with a long drill, 1/4 inch to 5/16, and then I put a straw in the hole. I like to use paper straws, not because of the environment, but because they're stiffer than plastic straws. And then I push the paper straw through there, and then I push the wires through the straw, and everything works great. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please like and subscribe. And like I said, I've done hundreds of these things, and it works pretty well. Okay, thanks for watching.